Hello, I am here with Coach Jennifer. Coach Jennifer, do you want to get started with telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am Coach Jennifer Chavez. I have been with academic coaching for a little over a year. I'll give you a little backstory about myself. So I am a Dr. Pam success story. I took the test for the first time in September of 2021. And by the test, I mean the NCE. At the time, I really wasn't studying the way I was supposed to. I had a very chaotic and busy life, being a mom of a teenager that's preparing to go to college, my husband who's active duty. So I really didn't have much time for myself. So I didn't do a whole lot of studying, and I used the Rosenthal book at the time. When I went into test on September 8th of 2021, and I remember the date because it was so overwhelming, I failed the test by 1 point. And because of that, I had gotten into my head that I wasn't going to test it again. And I in just studying or looking online at things, because I wasn't going to test. I just was like browsing and looking at stuff. I came across Dr. Pam's YouTube page. So I started using her videos, watching her videos, and I'm like, oh wow, she does not in person, but live sessions. So I started going to her live sessions. I attended a few of those, and I tested again after following her regimen, the 90 days, 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. Tested again, and I passed. And I passed with I think I hit 117. So I went from missing it by one to passing with 117. And I credit all of that to Dr. Pam and the people that I was able to meet and work with academic coaching. And once I finished and passed, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to work for academic coaching, because you build community with people who are like-minded, people that are on the same struggle bus as you, because sometimes it feels alone. And I was able to build community and make friends, and I wanted to continue and pay it forward and work with Dr. Pam in creating more world changers. So that's how I got started with academic coaching.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So, when you think about all the clients that you've helped, can you share a memorable success story of a student who's passed their test?
I and I'm going to pat myself on the back. I've had about, I think, 12 clients who have passed in the year that I've been with academic coaching. Um, all of them have such wonderful like stories and of like trials and actually doing the work and passing. But one story really sticks out. The client was a young woman who lived in, I think it was Cleveland, Ohio. She's in Cleveland, Ohio, and she actually was ill. She had taken the test once, and when she took the test the first time, she had began getting sick. Long story short about that part of it is she was really, really sick. I think she had a stroke or something along those lines. So she had got out of testing or opted to not test and worry about her health. But what ended up happening was she had health insurance through her job, and in order to keep her job, she had to pass the test. So she kind of had to put her health on the back burner and start really studying for the test. So I started working with her, and she signed up for 12 sessions. She would come to session. Some days she'd be in the hospital at the session because she was sick, but she would come to session and really work. When she took the test the first time, I think she missed it by like 10 points. But in the 12 weeks that we worked together, I saw her at her weakest really give it her all. And by the time that she went into test, she studied with me for 12 weeks. And I want to say like maybe 2 weeks after her last session, she went into test. She had been in the hospital prior, but she went in and she passed the test. And she emailed me. She said I was the first person she emailed, and she told me that she had passed. I don't remember the score. She was my second client actually, but she had passed and did well and was just really proud of herself for not giving up. And she said that she was bruised, but she wasn't broken. That was something that I remember her writing in her email. And I was just so proud to be part of her journey and her testament and to her strength. Her story always like gives me chills, and I saved her email because I saw how hard she worked and what it took for her to reach her goal, and she's doing well now. So
That's dedication. Showing up for sessions from the hospital or really whatever it takes to make sure she could pass that test. Real quick, you mentioned that you saw her for 12 sessions. We know that purchasing 12 sessions is a big investment. Why is it so beneficial to see a client for essentially 12 weeks, as opposed to just a couple? How is that, I guess, in your experience as a coach, how does that really help the client?
I think because it's such a hard test, it is a really hard test, and people get down on themselves for not passing the first time or whatever. It's such a hard test. And as Dr. Pam always says, we are really smart people. However, we don't really know how to study. So when I find when clients come in for that initial session, I try not to go over content because I really want to get to know them and really get to know their study habits. And if you look at it that way, the first session, you're really not going over content. So you're really not getting that study in that you would like. And then to follow up with that, during the first session, I do questions. And most of the questions that I do in that first session are of questions of the with the big guys included in it. And if you don't know those big people like the Freuds and the Ericksons and Piaget, then you don't know a lot of what that test is going to offer or ask. So I always recommend adding a little more sessions to the typical people who would pick 2 sessions. It's just simply not enough time to study with someone who has gone through the material, who has passed the exam. So I always recommend them doing more than 2. 12 sessions, I think, is right on the money because it follows along with the study regimen that Dr. Pam recommends. And as I mentioned, like we may think we're studying, we may do well on pocket prep, but what ends up happening a lot of times with the pocket prep is we've seen the question several times because they don't really vet the question or phase out the question. So we've seen them so many times and we mature. And we know the answer. So we're really not gaining that content that we need. We're doing it from memory. So I always recommend to clients, and it's a hard recommendation, especially because, like you said, it's a huge investment. But if you look at it in terms of doing the one and done and taking 12 sessions and hitting that one and done, you're really spending a lot less than having to test 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times because you didn't really want to invest that initial investment in yourself. So if you are looking forward to or looking into doing sessions with one of the coaches with academic coaching, I recommend not just doing 2 sessions. Try and go for 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks of studying because you're really going to need it. It's a lot of content and it's a hard test.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like you mentioned, you really need to learn the material, and that takes a while. I also think it helps with anxiety because if you know you're meeting with a coach for 12 sessions as opposed to like 2, you know you're going to have time to dig deep into that stuff that you're going to need to know
Mm-hmm.
for the test. Absolutely.
And you also, I think, have an accountability partner when
Mm-hmm.
you have a coach because we hold you to the fire. We're not here just collecting money. We want you to pass. We want you to be a colleague. So we really become accountability partners as well as SMEs or subject matter experts. So it's bang for your buck, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know who's more excited when clients pass, the coach or the client, because you guys have worked hard to work, or y'all worked hard together to try to meet that goal for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what do you enjoy most about coaching students? And along with that, how do you make your sessions enjoyable but also productive?
What I enjoy most about working with the students is that I don't look at them as like students or clients. It's jargon that I use to express or to have the professional conversation with other folks with academic coaching. But to me, they are my colleagues. The students are my colleagues. And I am working with a colleague to get them over this hump because that's really what this test is to all of us. It's a hump we have to get over to be pillars in the mental health field. So I enjoyed that side of like just helping, pulling one of my fellow colleagues up to start working, doing that hard work that we do in the field. I enjoyed that. I also enjoy just learning about the content. I passed and I took the test and was successful, but each session I find myself learning a little more from my colleague because they know things that I don't know as a very novice mental health professional. So I'm learning from them, I'm teaching to them. It's just like a very enjoyable like conglomerate of professionals working together. So that's a really enjoyable part for me. And it keeps me fresh as well, working with colleagues. I find myself using a lot of the content that we discuss in our sessions and my sessions outside of academic coaching. So it's just, I'm a lifelong learner. I pride myself in being a lifelong learner, and I enjoy learning from other like-minded individuals, and I enjoy sharing information. So I'm a student and a teacher, and I enjoy being able to do so with academic coaching.
So you mentioned learning from each other and, referring to your clients as colleagues. In addition to one-on-one individual sessions, you also frequently are running our 15-week prep courses, which is a small group of usually around 8 other people. How have you seen that be beneficial instead of, some people prefer the one-on-one, but you also have this um, cohort and group that you work with for 15 weeks. So like I said, how is that beneficial? What could you add about that being an option for people?
The cohorts are really awesome. I've completed 2 so far. My first cohort, I had 6 folks in there, 6 colleagues. My second cohort, I had 8. And my new cohort, I have 6. And then I'll start a new cohort next weekend as well. In my first 2 cohorts, it's really great to see how they all take on these different roles in the group. In the groups that I've worked with, I've seen people become facilitators. I've seen people become like maintenance people, some of those terms that we see in the group section for the NCE. And they do so just naturally because they all are working towards this common goal. It really reminds me of like a college cohort where everyone is just eager to learn, to work together. They also are encouraged to meet up outside of cohort. So we meet for 2 hours on a Sunday or Saturday, depending on what's available, what the cohort is offering. And they also meet outside of the group, as I mentioned. So my first cohort, I had a student named Keisha. Is it okay to name people? Keisha Golden, and I'll never forget her because Keisha held me to the fire. Like she made sure that whatever I was saying, she would go back and check it to make sure it was right. And she brought it to the group if it was some misinformation, because again, I'm a student myself, I'm learning, and I am sharing what I know. But she would come back to the group and say, well, Coach Jen, it's this. And we would work together and we, fix what it was I was teaching. But long story short about this particular cohort, Keisha was really instrumental in keeping everyone on track. She mailed another student a copy of the Hellwig book. Like she printed out the 300 pages and mailed him the book. And she was in New Jersey, he was in Pennsylvania. But you really just learn that folks are out and working towards the same goal, and they are willing to work together to make sure they all reach this goal. I say all that to say about Keisha, she was the first one in that cohort to test, and she passed. And within that cohort of 6, I've had 4 pass. So waiting for the 2 others to either test or to test again. But it is helpful and beneficial to get with a group of people because you are all working towards a common goal. One thing that a lot of clients mention about like the large groups is that there's a lot of kickback, a lot of talking and things going on in the large groups with Dr. Pam. However, in the small groups, you not only get the recording, but you get that live interaction, and you get to build a study group that you can study with on Sundays as well as during the week. And you don't have to worry about people talking out of term, random questions being asked in the middle of a lesson. Everyone is on that same page. So you're kind of just working together. It's really like a large study group. So I do recommend, if people have the time for the 15-week course, I recommend hopping in the next one, because I've had success with both cohorts. Keisha was the first one to pass, and this new cohort that just finished about a week ago, I've only had one student take the test, Hiromi, and she passed. So I'm waiting to hear from everyone else as they begin to test, and looking forward to working with my current cohort and the new one that starts next week. So it's a good group to hop into if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. In like you mentioned earlier about coaches holding you accountable, another great way to have, 6 or 7 other people that are counting on you to contribute and show up every week, and to know what's going on and to put in the time studying. I think those small groups are awesome.
Mhm.
All right, last question. You've mentioned several things that you love about working for academic coaching, but if you had to boil it down to like the top, like most rewarding thing, what would you say that is?
The most rewarding thing for me is, I'm a heart worker, like HEART. I enjoy working with people. I have experience working with the youngest learner to through adult learners. My background is in teaching and mental health. And working with academic coaching, I am able to work with people, like I had mentioned already, people or colleagues that are working towards the same common goal as me, and that is making the world a better place. So I enjoy being able to say that I have helped many mental health professionals reach their goal and start working in the field. And I think that being able to say that is better than any paycheck that I could receive. I enjoy working with academic coaching. It's flexible. I'm home, I'm learning, and I get to be part of Dr. Pam's movement. And it's been a blessing, and I've had fun doing so.
So I love working with you. We're so glad that you are on our team, and I know your clients are too. So thank you so much for your time. Again, this is Coach Jennifer. If you want to book sessions or jump into her prep courses, she usually has them rolling, but like she mentioned, because they're 15 weeks, um, sometimes they're kind of spread out. So make sure you're paying attention to social media or websites. You can join her and a small group on that. But thank you so much again for your time and all you do for your colleagues.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.